What's up, numbers? Welcome back to another episode of Hyper Heroes here in Hyper Rapid Power. Go!
Wow, that was a fast one.
That was a very fast one. I've had some coffee. I've had four cups of coffee today, so I'm on the fast track.
I thought you were
that's some
drinking
coffee.
like Coke or something.
No, baby, that's coffee.
Wow.
I only slept 4 hours. I need a little bit.
You got ice in it, right?
Oh yeah, it's an iced coffee.
It's one of them cold brews.
One of them coldies.
One of them.
It's called Keurig Cold Brew. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Before we do anything, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, to get all the latest videos from Hyper RPG.
Hit that bell.
Smash that little bell.
Smash the bell.
2019 style, as we like to call it. We don't call it that, but that's fine. Also, if you're listening on the podcast, thank you so much. We have a podcast version of the show available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, all that good stuff.
Just search Hyper Heroes.
Yes. Please search Hyper Heroes. Give it a like as well. Comment. Leave a review. Let's get that podcast up in the rankings. I want to see that baby in the top 100 because we full 100.
I see what you did.
We like
there.
to keep it 100.
We like to keep it 100, so we should be in the 100.
It's 100. Guys.
100.
I feel like we've got to be #1 podcast about pop culture featuring two Mexicans and a Czech. We have to be number one.
Look, this is the most diverse superhero podcast that's on the internet. Let's be honest. Everything else is just a bunch of regular American whiteys.
Three dudes with glasses who look like brothers, but we got two Mexis and a Czech.
That's right. We're a Mexichek. A Chexican.
Gotta be.
We're Chexicans.
We've got to be that #1 podcast.
We should just rename our podcast to Chexicans.
The Chexicans.
The Chexicans. Yeah. I'm down for this. You guys are laughing.
I'm sold.
I love it.
What a shit show.
We need, if we ever make merch, that's got to be
the Chexicans.
If we ever form a hip hop group, we are going to be the Chexicans for sure.
Who's going to sing?
No, we're all singing. We're like going to be like the Beastie Boys.
Oh my God, it's going to be amazing.
I like that.
Oh yeah.
I'm all about that. I'm all about
plus.
that. I got no moves, but I'll pretend. I'm going to start polka dancing. You're going to be real fucking...
Dude, if we have our accordion solos in every song, I would be happy.
Everybody polka.
Yeah.
Did you say something about merch?
Yeah, well, speaking of...
I'm working on some T-shirts.
Oh, yeah, well, I like the sound of that.
A Chexicans T-shirt?
A Chexicans T-shirt. If you are on the Patreon, you will probably get first dibs. Speaking of Patreon, we do have one. If you would like to join it and support it, we just recorded something that might tickle your pickle. We've had a lot of people ask us about doing TV stuff. We did a review of the season 2 premiere of Titans.
Yep.
We are talking about the DC Universe original series, Titans, season 2, episode 1, Trigon.
Yeah.
Now, if you're wondering what this is, let's give you a little bit of context. So, we've always tried to think of ways that we could incorporate talking about television or original series and movies based around not just superheroes, but things that we're passionate about, things that we love. So we had the idea of like, well, maybe this is something that we can demo with Titans because it just came out. It's going to run for 13 weeks. And we thought this was a nice opportunity to experiment with this format where we can talk about things that we love, but not necessarily always feel obligated to have to put out extensive videos where we talk about things super, super in depth.
Right. And this will be week to week. This will be episode by episode. Something we haven't really done before.
Yep.
Which is now available on all podcast formats. It's our preview episode. So you get a little bit of an idea of what we're going to be doing with this podcast.
Audio only.
Audio only.
I thought it was a great review. If I can say so myself, I think we knocked it out of the park.
I think so too.
I
think you know, when it's come to a lot of people asking us about the TV stuff.
Yeah.
For me personally, and I think probably for you guys as well, when it comes to 23 episode seasons, it is very exhausting.
It is absolutely
a 10-month commitment.
Yes.
And the nice thing about doing stuff on DC Universe, maybe potentially Netflix, potentially Disney Plus, potentially any other platform that we want to tackle.
Right.
I like the fact that a lot of these shows are between 8 to 13 episodes usually. And doing it in a podcast-only format allows us to do as much as we want, as quickly as we want, because the commitment to a podcast is not as big as it is when it comes to a video. You got to edit it, you got to export it, you got to upload it. It's a whole production process. And for us, it was like, cool, if we're going to really start to consider tackling TV stuff at all, it's got to be a podcast.
Well, not even just TV stuff. Like, we love more than superhero movies.
Of course.
We
so
love
much stuff
all kinds of, like, most of your Twitter I've noticed lately is not about superhero stuff. You are talking about everything that you love as far as cinema goes. So that's the stuff that is, I think it's interesting. I think it shows people that maybe where our opinions from superheroes come from.
Yeah.
Because we bring
the influence of our life.
The influence of our life, but also it's not in a
The
vacuum.
fabric
Right.
of our lives.
Some would
if you
say
will.
the fabric.
Yes.
The fabric of our lives.
Yes.
But it's like these movies are not made in a vacuum, so all our other opinions are still just as valid on other movies.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, I feel like I've been only watching superhero movies lately, so this is a good opportunity for me to just branch the F out.
not me. Not me.
I know, you've
Zach
been
and I,
watching everything.
we try to have movie nights here in the house where we put on something that's not related to comic book, sometimes related to like a graphic novel series or something. But we've really been trying to just do other stuff. And like those are things that I also want to talk about because, we've spent the better half of 5 years talking almost exclusively about superheroes. But I feel like we all have so many other interests. And podcast format will allow us to be able to do that on a much more frequent basis, I would say.
I agree.
I have way more interests. Like I like, on top of superheroes, I like vigilantes.
3D.
Yeah.
I like crime fighters.
You like super powered metahumans.
I like thank you.
You like
enhanced humans.
enhanced aliens with mega powers.
Mutants, if
And
you
big
will.
dongs.
Yeah.
You know? Big dongs.
Maybe shapeshifters.
But also, like, honestly, like, you and I talk about 3D whenever we can.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe there's a hope for that to be a thing.
Single-handedly keeping it alive. It's dead.
We're the only. I literally
it's
had
dead in this hemisphere.
I
It's done.
had a graphics card update, and it automatically updated, and I literally started like having a seizure almost because my monitors are 3D monitors.
You stroked out for a second?
And NVIDIA doesn't support 3D vision anymore. And I'm like, how do I
stroked out.
How do I
You were
revert?
just like,
How do I revert? How do I revert? Oh my god! So I'm like, I want to be able to watch my movies on my computer in 3D. Thank you very much.
Listen, you guys have talked about it so much that
I know.
I'm going to buy a 3D projector.
No, okay, cool.
A 3D projector, not a television.
Yeah, cool.
Projector,
Well, you
because
probably wouldn't even be able to buy with 3D.
those
TV,
things,
so.
those things are not in short supply.
No.
They sell 3D projectors everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'll have a way to keep the medium alive.
For sure.
But I'm going to have to borrow your movies.
That's fine. I'm happy
Anytime.
to lend them out.
Yeah.
I'm happy to.
Anytime.
Yeah, I just got a whole mess of new 3D Blu-rays,
Yeah.
like at least 30 brand new 3D Blu-rays. So I'm pretty excited. Yeah, I got a lot.
Are you getting to the bottom of the barrel where you're like, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, where you're like, Hansel and Gretel.
So that's the thing with me.
Witch Hunter. All of it.
I will not buy a Bluray
Just
to own it. I will buy a Blu-ray because I legitimately want to experience the movie.
Got it.
So my collection will never. Well, I shouldn't say never, but my collection will likely not exceed a huge amount of Blu-rays because. There is a finite amount of things that I do enjoy when it comes to cinema.
Yeah.
I don't want to own 15,000 Blu-rays. I want to own maybe 1,000 of the things I love.
Here's the thing,
things you
though.
love,
They're
yeah.
going to make 15,000 Batman movies
Of
before we're
course,
dead.
it's
So
true. And
we
I will
will-
own all of them.
I know, so that's the problem.
I own them all currently.
I don't think the audience is realizing that they've been watching the slow build of the 3D Society of Los Angeles.
Boop, boop, boop.
It's right here. Hello.
First two members. We got the first two members, and we got the Treasury
That's
Secretary
I'm the Treasury
right here.
Sec-
The founding
That's
fathers
right.
and the treasurer.
Yeah, I'll be
right.
the treasurer. I'll be the what can I be? I'll be the projectionist. I'll just hang out in the projection room.
Yeah.
You guys are down there talking to the audience, like working them up.
Spin
Yeah.
all our like 3D
So
adjectives.
we're gonna buy a theater and we are gonna
right.
play 3D
God,
movies
man.
and we are
That's the
gonna
dream.
keep it alive.
The dream.
Look, I feel like we still need to figure that out. We haven't talked about that, but we need to figure out how we're going to do 3D screenings in LA.
It'll happen. We'll
It'll
figure it
happen.
out.
We'll figure it
If
out.
you know anybody, let us
That's
know.
Also, so we're doing that. So if you want to jump on Patreon, patreon.com/hyperrpg, the more that expands and the more support that we get,
Do it.
potentiality is the key. We should just, never mind. That's a whole other conversation. But now we can talk about the things that we're going to talk about. Kind of a slow week, not a whole lot of news, but the things that we're going to touch on, I think, are probably the most exciting things that I saw, equally frustrating that I saw.
Definitely talk-worthy.
Talk-worthy. And we're going to watch the not officially released, but still released trailer for Birds of Prey.
Oh, cool.
Which I did see when I saw It Chapter 2 last night.
Right.
So I don't know if you guys have stumbled upon this or seen this. Whether you have or haven't, doesn't matter.
Did you see a longer trailer or this exact
No,
teaser?
it's the exact same thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, it makes sense because of the the thing with the. We'll talk about it.
I accidentally stumbled upon it because I
Okay.
was like, "What is
okay.
this?"
So the
Strange.
bit with the
balloons.
With the balloons, and
Yeah.
I'm like, it's specific. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
it's very specific, and I was like, "This is strange." So
It's a studio, promoting its own thing
Yeah, for
with
sure.
its other clown thing.
I
You're like,
I
fine.
got it afterwards where I was like, oh, this is supposed to be before it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Which I'm like, that's fine. That's great. It's all good. It's all good. But let's jump into this Spider-Man news. I know Hector is real excited to talk about this. The Sony CEO had some things to say about the breakdown in the fallen partnership of Marvel Studios and Sony, and he pretty much did confirm that, like, look, for the moment, the door is closed. There are no plans right now for Spider-Man to somehow be reinserted or to re-engage with the Avengers and vice versa. And Hector has thoughts, and I want to hear them all. So please dump them on me.
First of all, I don't like all the disrespect being thrown around by Sony. I'm going to be real. I want them to get that disrespect out of their mouth. I don't,
But he says there's no ill will.
I know, but there's still you can feel the shade.
Yeah.
You can feel it when you read, even without hearing this in like a video or or where that indicates tone or whatever. You can hear the shade where the Sony Pictures chairman and CEO is saying stuff like, Kevin Feige didn't do everything. You're just like, okay, so this is about ego. Right? Because
isn't everything in Hollywood?
If this was honestly, yes, it is.
It is.
And
100%.
and
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut on that front.
The only way we ever get a cool piece of art or an important piece of art is when that artistic creativity can slip beyond some egos.
Right.
That's honestly the.
Are you talking about Spider-Man?
I'm talking about everything.
Yeah.
I'm talking about anything you've ever loved that's ever come out of Hollywood, movie, TV show, video game, comic book. Well, not even a comic book, but even then, yes, every comic book ever has been made to sell, to make money.
It's a commodity.
To make
it's a product.
Originally 10 cents and now $4 or whatever.
Right.
Anything you've ever loved, from our lifetimes and probably our parents' and grandparents' generation lifetimes as well. You've only loved it because that creativity has been able to sneak by all the ego,
right?
And that's such a bummer.
Right.
But you can feel that shade coming through. And I also, I was talking about it on the internet. The Sony Pictures chairman and CEO pointed to, they just recently did the show The Boys on Amazon, and they're like, we can do comic book stuff, we're good. We won an Oscar on Spider-Verse, we're good. And that stuff I also dislike because it's like, okay, now you are sort of dismissing and ignoring the worries that like fans of this character have for this very, very, very specific thing. The Tom Holland live action Spider-Man series and character. You're dismissing the stuff that's like, look, The Boys, your TV show that has been, I haven't seen it yet, but everybody has really loved it and has been doing great, is great because when you got the rights to The Boys, you didn't get the rights to one character from The Boys and the character surrounding that. You're like, okay, cool, we'll figure it out. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
You got The Boys.
The whole enchilada.
Whether or not you like it, you guys agreed to with Marvel Studios and with Disney years back to collaborate to be like, cool, we're going to let this become a piece of a larger puzzle. It's a piece of a larger pie. And I'm not disrespecting Spider-Man. I think that that's the strength of this version of the character. I'm not disrespecting Iron Man. I think it's the strength that the Iron Man movies starring Robert Downey Jr. are part of a larger thing. Because it allows for, and we've actually seen it follow through, the potentiality. It allows for moments like I Am Iron Man snap. It allows for something like Thanos to show up. It allows for Black Panther and Spider-Man to premiere in a movie called Captain America Civil War. It allows for Hulk and Thor to star in Thor Ragnarok. And for all of that stuff to be as good as it was is because of that world building. It's not about, he was fine without the team up movies. That's not what those things are. What it is finally building a comic book universe and all of its strengths on film. And I'll even say this, still to this day, even with everything we've seen from the MCU, it's still incomplete. You know why? There's been no X-Men, no Fantastic Four. And you know why else? Why? Because the Daredevil characters haven't been up on the screen yet. So to me, it's still incomplete. And these guys are acting like, what? What's a big deal? What's a big deal? So I'm like, to stop dismissing, because this would be as though Marvel Comics tomorrow were to come out and go, hey, you guys really like Spider-Verse? That won an Oscar. We're Marvel Comics. From now on, our Spider-Man comics are only going to be Spider-Man comics with Spider-Man characters, and that's it. And at first you go, okay, isn't that what they already are? And Marvel will go, yeah. But now, anytime there's a potential for Spider-Man to pop over into another Marvel comic, it's just not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
And anytime there's some Marvel event or Marvel, a thing that defines this generation of comic book storytelling, Spider-Man's not going to be involved. And anytime there's a potential for Spidey to like interact
Spider-Man
with
Invincible?
or reference, or even reference like anything that's happened in the past of his comics, not even going to happen. We're going to snip that right there. And then you're like, well, what? Why?
Right.
Why would you?
Then
you
what
guys,
is it?
You guys are already
because I want to.
Yeah, and it's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. So, so that kind of thinking, it's like Sony CEO, whoever has to do the sort of like, you know, the marketing of this, what's the word I'm thinking of? The public relations, the PR for this thing. Whoever has to do it, it's like your uphill struggle is everybody who's following this thing and everybody who is a fan of these movies knows that this is because of money.
Right.
There is no way you're going to be able to convince like the fans of the Tom Holland Spider-Man that like, oh, creatively, we're really going to focus on Spider. It's like, okay. And then, so that's all my sort of point number one. Point number two is I am still waiting to hear the specifics of like, what does this mean?
Right.
Does this mean that at the end of the last movie, when Spider-Man had his secret identity revealed by Mysterio and J. Jonah Jameson was there, Mysterio being the former employee of Stark Industries, like, and Spider-Man has just had like saved London from Mysterio with the help of Nick Fury, with the help of, you know, who later ended up being a Skrull, blah, 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 blah. Does that mean in the next movie, like, you can't use any of those other characters outside Spider-Man? Like,
those
you can't,
references?
can you not use an MCU character?
You
can you reference an MCU character?
No.
Can you... like reference?
What can you
reference the fact that at the end of that movie, Spider-Man flew through what was once Avengers Tower?
Right.
And it's like, could that play into whoever now owns the building? Is it important because that building was sold and now somebody else owns it? Like all of these different things of like, how are you going to do a part 3 where it picks up with J.K. Simmons yelling in the thing? Like, first of all, can you even use J.K. Simmons? Like, can you use Michelle Zendaya? Can you use, like,
no idea.
Or are those Sony characters? Are they allowed to because they're Spider-Man, like, you know, adjacent?
Right.
But what's Spidey going to do and say? And how are you going to convince audiences that you have a movie where Peter Parker gets his secret identity revealed, and in the very last movie was using the help of like Happy Hogan, and in this next movie he's not going to go to any Avengers for help? How are you going to do that?
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
And you can't. It doesn't make any sense.
Now,
it makes zero sense.
If all this deal means is like, hey, in the next one, like another MCU leading character isn't going to co-star with Tom Holland in this next movie, and we're going to focus on it's going to be Spidey versus Kraven or Spidey versus, you know, whatever, the Green Goblin or whatever. I get that, but again, if you're not going to reference anything that's happened in the world that this character lives in, including being gone for 5 years, like, what are you doing? So I want to know. I just want to know what my point number 2 is. What are the specifics of this thing? Because if the specifics are one thing, when we're all talking about it being another thing, and we should stop worrying about it, then we'll stop worrying. Then we're fine.
Right.
If all this means is, hey, Kevin Feige's not going to be a producer in name, and it's going to be Spider-Man versus Kraven, but everything else remains the same. It's like, can you guys use Jon Favreau? Yeah, if we wanted to use Jon Favreau, we could have him cameo.
Yeah.
Okay. What the hell's a big deal? Yeah. Or if this really is a big deal to be like, nope, he will never acknowledge any of anything that's happened.
Right.
Then I'm like, what the hell is that? How can any creativity get through these egos?
That was a good one. That was a really, really good one.
Don't like that disrespect.
I think you're 100% correct. I think it's also, this comment was also sort of a slap in the face to the fans who are very concerned. It's just like, yeah, we are concerned with every right to be concerned. It's not to say that Sony cannot make a good movie. Like, my biggest fear is that they do a Kraven the Hunter movie and just jack it up and lose that opportunity that Kraven the Hunter presents to Spider-Man.
Me too. I love Kraven,
but
my 4th favorite villain.
Is he
my 4th favorite Spidey villain?
So specific.
I mean, yeah.
I got a list on list, bitch.
Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Venom, Kraven. That's where I'm at.
Sorry, that one just threw me off completely.
And I've gotten 2 out of the 4 pretty good in movies so far. Yeah. Eddie Brock Venom is. I put him above Kraven.
I mean, I could see that.
Zach's gonna hang you with those lights.
I know. What can I say? I'm a child of the '90s. What can I say?
It just.
Why are you hanging up those lights, bro?
It's gonna look cool in here.
What are you doing?
Yeah, he's working. Leave him alone.
Take a break, brother.
No, he's working. He's mad. He's fucking mad.
No.
This whole thing seems so strange to me, and the fact that Disney has been so silent. To me, I have a feeling that Disney came into this already knowing, hey, they're not going to take this. They're not going to take this offer. We know who we're working with. They're not going to take this offer. Therefore, right now, they're just like, you know what? Keep it chill. We're going to kind of let it slide, real James Gunn situation, and just be like, let it slide. Let people kind of like forget about this a little bit, and then when the movie starts to get closer to production, they'll resume talks secretly. I have a feeling this is going to blow over completely, and then we're going to get them back.
Yeah.
Well, I think another thing, too, is Disney Marvel Studios kind of is in a place where, like, we don't have to address it.
They don't have to.
We don't have Spider-Man, so therefore we don't have to talk about it. It's Sony's problem.
And they did technically address it on behalf of.
They did.
Kevin Feige was the one at D23 to be
and
like
Tom Holland,
to be in the nicest PR way possible.
Right.
Hey, we told the story we wanted to tell.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, blah 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 blah. Like it was all super nice. And so
what's
did
his name?
Holland.
Tom Holland said that it's in the good hands of Sony or whatever.
Yeah.
But those seem like, for the outcry that there is
Sure.
with fans, it seems like a very minimal response just because they have to say something.
I mean,
at this point, these business workings, to me, they're never this cut and dry.
yeah.
Anybody in these movie industries can be bought. And so I have a feeling that at a certain point, they're just going to be like, yeah, we're working together again.
And I think it's also got to be pretty tough on Tom Holland as the actor playing Spider-Man, because I'm sure he feels a little bit of an obligation to also do some sort of damage control.
Absolutely.
Whether or not he should,
Right.
that's a whole nother question. But, you know, when he's at things like D23 or he's doing press interviews for Onward, and obviously people are asking about Spider-Man, he's like, well, you know, there's a lot of potential. We have a lot of ideas for where we can move it forward. You know, it is what it is. We hope that Spider-Man, you know, is going to continue to be successful, and we're going to continue to push the envelope. I mean, as an actor, to have to answer to corporate questions,
I know.
you know, that are dealt
not fair.
that were dealt by people who are multi-billionaires in this industry, and you have to kind of be like, oh God, I hope it turns out well. It'll be great. I mean, that sucks.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in that position.
It's a weird place for both companies to be in.
Yeah.
And I don't want to crap all over Sony and say that they cannot create a good Spider-Man movie, because it's there. There are very good solo Spider-Man stories that can be told.
Yeah, of course.
But Hector, every point you made was absolutely right. Like,
This same CEO, he says, and now that we have our own universe, and it's like, let me stop you right there. One Venom movie,
one? Yeah.
does not mean, you know, and
you have no universe. You have a
I'm
movie.
sorry,
Yeah.
The term universe, it gets thrown around way too flippantly in
does.
Hollywood. Every we have dark universe.
Yes.
we have
We've
the
got-
John Wick universe.
Everything's a universe.
Yeah.
The next
Kingsman universe.
I guarantee. Yeah, right. It's like,
It's
what?
a trilogy. Shut up.
It's a bunch of British dudes in the UK. Like
The
that's
Mission
the
James
Impossible
Bond
verse.
universe.
The next,
Yeah. Come on.
I
Crazy, dude.
promise you, the next thing we're going to hear is going to be about like the G.I. Joe reboot, and they're trying to do a G.I. Joe universe.
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
like,
The Transformers.
I'm like, these characters don't even barely ever go into space. Stop saying universe. You know what I mean? It gets thrown around so easily. So I'll tell you what.
It's a hot key term.
I'll tell you what an actual universe. I'll tell you what I feel like the two actual movie universes are straight up.
I know they
MCU, Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's it. Star Trek, I'll say that too,
Yeah,
but they're just
sure.
not making movies right now.
Yeah.
But they have like a TV universe, especially
Right,
because they're doing a bunch of spin-offs.
And it's all
different-
interconnected.
And it's all in
Yeah.
different parts of a universe.
Yeah.
You know, not just one location.
It's not just on Earth.
So like,
Right.
It's all over the
I'm
place.
so sorry, Sony. You never had a Spider-Man universe. You never had a Marvel universe. You have a
Spider-Man
piece of.
movies.
You have a piece of the universe. When I pick up a Spider-Man comic book, I don't go, "Oh, this is such a great universe."
Yeah.
If I do, I'm talking about the Marvel world that he lives in, the New
Right.
York, the living and breathing Marvel New York. That in and of itself
All the
is a
supporting
universe. But
characters which create a universe.
I'm not reading a Spider-Man comic that has Venom or Morbius the Living Vampire or Silver Sable or Black Cat going, man, what a fulfilling universe. Wow. Look at all
This
these
universe is so rich.
Look at all these rich characters. Compelling, rich.
All
rich.
five
I'm
of
like,
them.
All five
I
of them.
like those characters, but they all are like supporting characters.
Yeah.
They're supporting. Who are they supporting?
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Right.
Yeah.
Spider-Man. So just because you have the rights to the Spider-Man and side characters,
Yeah.
it's not even like Batman movies, it's not a universe.
Right.
But if Batman gets in a plane, flies over to the Justice League, takes the thing up to the Watchtower on the
Yeah.
moon, now we're talking universe.
Yeah, the
Exactly.
90s Batman movies were
Exactly.
not a universe.
No,
they were
that's a series.
It was an anthology.
A series of movies.
movies.
Anthology
Exactly.
is
Yeah.
a better way to put
It's
it.
like, let me go into this Venom verse where the Venom can't even wear the trademark
Yeah.
spider on his chest. Come
I
on,
don't-
dude.
Yeah.
And all again, to sum up, Augustine would agree, Adam would agree, I'd agree. I'll speak for both of you guys. Like, we're not knocking the movies that Sony has made with Spidey.
Absolutely
No.
not.
And I think
There's been some great ones.
We can all agree, Spider-Verse especially is one of the best
best.
superhero movies, if not the best ever made.
Yeah.
It's It's probably one of the best movies ever made, period.
Ever made. But that is a very, 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 very different story, very different endeavor than what is already set up to then retroactively. This is what it would feel like. Imagine the next film, the next Spider-Verse sequel, Spider-Verse 2, the animated sequel. If they're like, cool, this one's just going to be Spider-Man War and his characters. And everyone's like, wait, what? Where's Miles?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we're good.
He's in there.
We got Peter Parker, Spider-Man Noir,
Swings around.
voiced by Nicolas Cage, swinging around, fully black and white movie. Oh, there's a Rubik's Cube. It's in color.
Yep.
Isn't that great? That's your movie. There you go. We got it. The universe of characters. And you're going, well, wait, the reason it worked before was because that character was a piece of a larger ensemble, a larger puzzle, a larger world. Yeah. And I want to see that continue. What's the next step? Yeah. And it would be as if they were to say, no, we don't have the rights to any of those other characters. We're just going to do the one.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, that's a weird step backwards, right? Yeah. For a sequel, part 2, for them to already be like, we have this, and now this one, we're just going to have this.
One particular thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's part of what makes me a little nervous, apprehensive. Maybe doesn't make me feel so good when they're like, we have 4 to 5 or 4, 5, or 6 shows that we're going to spin off. And I'm like, what are you doing? Are these live action? Are they animated? Are they all spin-offs of Spider-Verse?
I would have to imagine some of those at least were some of the Spider-Verse cartoon shows that we'd heard like in development and stuff.
I think so.
Because
if you're going to do a proper sequel to Spider-Verse that involves kind of everyone, but then you're also going to give those characters individual. Then to me, good.
Then that's
good.
Literally,
that's good.
That's literally what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is, and Sony understands that. Right. And with the live action side, they're trying to kind of sell us something different. And I'm like, well, you guys already know what we're talking about because you're doing it over here.
Yeah.
So you're very excited.
All of this to me just it smells bad. It's just like there's just something about this whole conversation that they're having. Yeah. And I'm just like, there's just something fishy going on here.
I mean, Sony has its work cut out for them because right now, as much as people want to talk trash about Disney being greedy and all that stuff, Disney has a little bit of a better track record with their Marvel movies.
I would
currently,
say so.
You know, I mean, of course, I love the Raimi Spider-Man movies. Yeah. Even Spider-Man 3, it's not that great, but it has elements working for it, and it's a part of a great trilogy.
Right.
I'm not the biggest fan of Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. Yeah. I think they really kind of falter for me personally.
Okay.
I like them.
But I've enjoyed what they've done with Peter Parker up to this point with Tom Holland.
Right. Yeah.
And I want to see that, but I don't want it to be like, we're going to, exactly what Hector said.
Basically everything that Hector said all over again.
I'm not going to repeat everything Hector said.
We're just going to go around in circles at this point.
Exactly.
I'd rather see Michael Keaton again, not Jared Leto interact with Tom Holland. You know what I'm saying?
Samesies. God damn it.
Oh, I'm reading last week's notes. What the F?
Anyway, tell us about it, man.
Welcome to the show.
I know, right?
So the other thing we're going to talk about is Robert Pattinson finally talking about the Batman. This is the first interview that he's done that has incorporated discussions about Batman. Now, this interview wasn't just Batman specific. It talks about the new movie that he's got coming out with Willem Dafoe, The Lighthouse, which looks so good.
Do we have a trailer for that yet?
Yeah, there's been I think one trailer for that. It looks really, really great. It's Robert Eggers,
director of The Witch.
Does it look scary?
Yeah.
The Vavitch.
He talked about some of the things that you could expect to see. I don't know if he was supposed to, but it sounds real fucked up, and I'm all about it. He's also currently shooting Christopher Nolan's new film Tenet, which I get excited for Christopher Nolan movies. Yeah. This one's going to have him alongside John David Washington, so that's going to be a lot of fun. But he talked about how he's kind of been going after this Batman role for a while. So he talked about how he's been a Batman fan, a really big fan. And I kind of feel like this is the trend when it comes to actors who play Batman. Yeah. They like the character because he doesn't have superpowers. He's the most grounded.
Yeah.
Okay, well, all right, I guess.
I
guess Superman's not as cool. I don't know.
This reminds me of a friend of mine, Cosmonaut Marcus on YouTube, who has said that when he hears other directors talk about what Batman comics they were influenced by to make their Batman movie, he's like he had the phrase. He goes, "Yeah, that's baby's first Batman." Is what he said, and I'm like, and I feel like such a dick saying it, very elitist, very like I'm not trying to be gatekeepy, but I know that Robert Pattinson, being a Batman fan, I'm sure he also he's an incredibly hardworking and really fucking good actor.
Yeah.
So I would be so surprised if he were. Remember when we talked about Ava DuVernay talking about I Love Big Barda, and I was like, that's so surprising.
Oh damn! Okay,
I
I'm into
love
this
that.
cut.
You know, well, that's a deep cut. This take, I think, is not the most. It's not a deep cut. You know, it would have blown my mind if he was like, I like Batman
reference
because
a specific arc.
Yeah, if he's like, I like Batman because he doesn't kill, and you know, something like that. I'd be like, whoa, you know, I like Batman because of his relationship with Dick Grayson and Tim Drake or something. I'd be like, what?
Dynamics of the Bat family,
But
whatever.
But the lack of superpower, I just am thinking of Marcus's phrase, "baby's first Batman," and it's such a bummer. I apologize. I feel
but
like
it's
such a dick.
true
But
though.
that seems to be pretty consistent with all the actors who play Batman. It's like, I find him interesting because he's got duality and he's grounded and no powers.
He's
like,
probably really tackling this character probably from like a cinematic perspective.
Absolutely.
This guy is an actor, so he's probably tapped into this character from like what other actors have played him, what movies has he been in. That's where I'm zoned in.
And how do you give him the human perspective, which we have seen before?
Yeah.
You know, which why this doesn't sound super original, but you got to take it from a guy who's devoted to this and give him the benefit of a doubt. Absolutely. You know?
Yeah, and he talked about that too. He talked about, you know, how they asked him, what was your reaction to the response from when you finally were announced to play Batman? And he's like, well, you know, honestly, it wasn't as vitriolic as I thought it was going to be, which I was like, okay, that's good. I feel like we're finally slowly getting to the point where when an actor is announced to play a role, there is freak out still, but not as much as I feel like there was even when Heath Ledger was cast as Joker.
Right, exactly.
Even when Affleck was cast years ago, because I feel like there's now been so many different examples of we're doing this again. Yeah. Everybody's freaking out. Shut up! It ends up being your favorite take.
Exactly.
Right. You know what I mean?
That's my favorite. Like
reading the comments and the tweets. That was the counter to everybody freaking out. It's like, chill, homie. We've seen this before. Been down this road, and you loved it. So chill out.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing in particular that I like that he says is like, being the underdog is great. That means expectations are really low for me.
Yeah,
so
that's amazing.
Even if I'm a little bit good, it means I've done something right.
Yeah.
And you know, you can it leaves a lot of room for creativity and to win the hearts of so many doubters.
But listen, you don't become Batman and just do it a little bit.
No, you go.
You don't go 75% Batman.
You go 150.
You go 1,000%.
Yeah, you go all in.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that made me sort of excited about what he had to say was, he pursued this role. This wasn't Matt Reeves coming at him and saying, hey, let's meet.
Right.
He made a joke about, like, you know, he gets sort of like anxious when he doesn't have work, and he found out that Matt Reeves was
as
doing
we all do.
Yeah, you know.
That's
except we're not making millions, so
that's a human thing.
You know.
I mean, is he making millions? I hope so.
I hope so. He's
that
great.
is definitely the sign of like a workaholic.
Yeah.
I feel that. I relate to that.
His house smells like workaholics. So, but the other thing that I really liked was the fact that he found out Matt Reeves was doing Batman, so he pursued it. He kept kind of like prodding Matt Reeves and like, let's have a meeting. Let's have a meeting. And it wasn't until Matt Reeves finished the script that they finally had a meeting, had a discussion about it, what they can do, how they would do it. He came prepared with like a page full of notes of like how he would play it, how he would approach it, because he went in, as we all are going into this movie, knowing very well Batman's going to be younger.
Yep.
We're hopefully going to focus a lot more on the detective elements of Batman, something that we've kind of like dabbled in a little bit, but not really explored to the full extent. Like Kevin Conroy's Batman has in the animated series, or even just in the video games.
Video games are the prime example. Yeah,
huge detective stories with Batman there. So that to me was very encouraging. And on top of already being a Pattinson fan, because I've seen everything he's done outside of Twilight, which you should do too.
Yep.
It just sort of like reinforced that excitement that I have for him to play the role. And he talked about how he was terrified that he was going to actually lose any chance of playing Batman, because while he was in the Cannes Film Festival, there were leaks that happened, which we know, I think was in like May or something, that he was in discussion to play the role and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, is that what that was then?
While all that was happening, he was literally in his hotel room in France preparing for his audition.
Flipping out.
Like he was he was reading script pages while there's leaks happening of like, Pattinson's going to be Batman. He's like, oh shit, I'm going to get fired, aren't I? So once that happened and he was done promoting his movie, he went to LA, he tried on the costume, he did the audition, and like 5 days later or something, he got the call that he was going to play Batman. And it was, surprisingly enough, also the first day he was working on the Christopher Nolan movie, Tenet. So I think it all worked out, in my opinion.
He walked up to Chris Nolan. He's like, "Guess what?
Yeah.
Guess what?
How you like them
now
apples?
I'm Batman, bitch."
I'm Batman.
So for me, everything that he has stated in this interview maybe just honestly excited to see what
Same.
he's going to do as Batman and putting on the suit. And we all know the story of all the actors who've tried on those suits. It's like, it's uncomfortable. It's awkward having 5 people stick your butt cheeks in a weird tight suit and all that sort of stuff. But it's nice to finally hear him say anything about it. And, they're super tight-lipped about all these projects and there's very little that he can say. But what he did say at least was enough for me to, I don't know, now I'm kind of ready to just like sit back and wait.
Yeah.
I don't really need anything.
At this point, you're right. I would like 1 trailer, maybe 2, and that's it. Like, I don't want to hear anything else about this.
Yeah.
I feel like Batman is such a ubiquitous character now that we don't need a super huge buy-in.
No.
Like, just show us a trailer. I'm good to go.
Look, the teaser trailer for The Dark Knight is literally just like flashes of the Bat logo.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's all I need.
That's all you need.
I'm gonna go watch this movie no matter what.
Exactly. Yeah. Some of my favorite Batman elements, though, come from the animated series where he's using little gadgets, like throwing those little smoke bombs out so he can fight in smoke and then tying people up and leaving them there for the police to find.
Ninja vanish.
Exactly. Doing that kind of stuff. Like in the video game where he would use the spray on the wall and it would be like an explosive so he could get through a wall or like find some things out. So those are the kind of things that I want to see from something like this, but I'm not banking on any of it at this point.
Right.
But I feel like that would be a cool new direction in the movies to go, for sure.
I agree.
Yeah, a lot of what he's talked about, or I guess what's also being rumored is that there's going to be a lot of villains in this movie. And if this is going into a Batman story where he's already been Batman for, it doesn't have to be a long time, it could be a couple years, and we've already established, like the Rogues Gallery has been established off screen. I liked the idea of there being multiple villains and none of them necessarily being all the main villains.
Right.
But there being one main villain and then he has to use the support of the other villains to find
one
villain
main
is.
case.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Agreed.
So I don't know. In terms of like, I haven't been reading too many of the recent Batman books to really pinpoint any particular story that I would like for them to pull from. I know a lot of people have talked about things like Court of Owls and all that sort of stuff. But I would say just generally, Batman the Animated Series, the Batman Arkham games where he gets to be a detective.
Right.
That's what I want to see.
That's
like
some
if
cool
it's if it's a noir mystery / detective story, of course there's going to be action and it's going to be big and it's going to be a spectacle. But like let Batman be a detective a little bit more.
I want to see that bat silhouette. Just that Batman the Animated Series, just like he's in his cloak.
I want the whole thing to be covered.
He looks like a Yes, exactly. He almost looks like Dracula. You know. So, anyways, I'm putting too much into this at this point.
All right.
You're investing a lot here, aren't you, pal?
I'm investing a lot.
We're here for it.
Yes.
Do you have any is there any elements of Batman that for you personally has not been explored that you want to see?
Yeah, 100%, but they're not going to be explored in this movie. So, like...
In sequels, maybe?
I'm like, him and Nightwing, him and Batgirl, him and Oracle, him and Batwoman, him and Tim Drake,
so for
him
you,
and Jason Todd.
For you, it's a little bit of more of like...
It's the
expanding the family.
The expansion of the Bat
now,
story.
maybe it's because of the Spider-Man Sony stuff. Maybe it's, I'm in this headspace of I like DC, that means all DC. You know what I mean? I'm in this headspace of like, when am I going to get Plastic Man? When am I going to get Booster Gold? When am I going to get Hawkman?
Have you been reading Deceased?
No, but I read the first issue.
It's fun. Awesome.
Yeah, it's real fun.
And now they have the spin-off, and there's some wild shit that happens where they bring in more characters, including, I will spoil this, Pooch is in it. Booster Gold.
Yes.
It's rad.
I love it.
Okay.
So it's like, that's what I love about DC and Warner Brothers owning all the characters. It's like, that can happen like that.
Yeah, that can.
Exactly.
But I feel that, and it's probably for the better because, truthfully, as how good Batman films have been up to this point, to varying degrees, especially how good the Christopher Nolan trilogy was. That was its own standalone thing, and that is not indicative of what the character can bring to the table. The potentiality. It's not the whole thing. It's a very specific take on the character. So was the Ben Affleck Batman. It did this one thing, and I don't think really indicative of the whole deal. So if this movie is specifically for that reason, pared down, less budget, focused on Batman, just his Rogues Gallery, I'm like, you know why? Because we never really got that movie yet either.
Right.
No,
We've gotten the classic, the formula of the old Batman TV show where and this week we have a guest star actor playing the villain, and it was some kooky villain, and the next week it's a completely different thing. They did that with the Tim Burton movie series. with Joel Schumacher.
That's an anthology.
Right? It's an anthology where the first movie is like Jack Nicholson, second movie Danny DeVito, Michelle Pfeiffer, third movie Jim Carrey, and they were not bringing back Jack Nicholson for the third one. They were not, and unfortunately because we lost Heath Ledger, no Joker, and Dark Knight Rises. Each of those movies is like a really different main villain.
Right.
So,
but I would say it's the most interconnected Batman
so far.
story.
Absolutely, the most serialized
up
to this point, unless you count like the Batman versus Superman going into Justice League, which feels very chopped up and not as sort of consistent. So we haven't got that. I just want to get to the point where you can have a time traveling Booster Gold show up to the Batcave and be like, oh, I messed up, dude. I messed up. Like I want that in a movie, but we are 30 years away from that.
I think you're right.
I'm gonna be 60 years old when they're like, Justice League.
I'll be like, I hope we're all still friends at that point.
Me too.
And we're all watching that movie together as 60-year-olds.
We will.
Dentures out.
It's going to be great.
Sippy cups in.
It's going to be great.
Let's go, Batman.
Diapers on.
Oh,
definitely diapers on.
Are you guys saying we're going to be 80? We're going to be 90? Fine.
Nah, dude, 60. I'm going to lose all bowel control.
By 58.
By 58.
You're just on a tennis court like, oh, no. I need diapers now every day. Oh, dear.
That SNL skit, Oops, I Crapped My Pants.
I crapped my pants.
It's going to be me at 45. 10 years away.
God, I hope not. Don't put those fears in my brain, man. Oh, man. All right, so we're going to wrap this out by watching this very short teaser trailer for Birds of Prey, which was only intended for theaters. I think it leaked from like some Turkish something. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not going to put blame where it doesn't deserve to be put.
Turkey. Turkey. But not like the country. A group of turkeys.
A group of turkeys.
A group
Renegade
of turkeys.
Renegade turkeys with a disc somewhere.
With a camera.
That's right.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, I did see this, and I was like, "Is this an It thing?"
Yeah, that's what I thought too. But I was like,
which I think can be very funny.
DC's making a It comic
because you can hear it.
Yeah,
it's fun. Yeah, for people that know logos, they might be confused right now. They're like, DC. Oh, there we go.
I'm so fucking over clowns.
It's funny because she's over the Joker.
Exactly.
I love it. And I love this song too. I gotta get this remix. I love that logo. It's a slick logo.
Yeah, it's great.
It's popping full of color. Little lip thing at the end. I'm all in on this movie because
she gave you a little smooch at the end there.
It just seems so different.
Yeah.
And it seems very female centric in the best way possible. Not that anything female centric isn't good, but a female centric and
it feels
like
right.
It feels right. It feels authentic. It doesn't feel pandering.
It feels honest.
And I'm just going off of just a handful of images, dude.
Yeah.
Because I think it was you put last week. We talked about you grabbed some thumbnails, and I was like, the color in this is really, really great.
Right.
And it's moving away from a more muted, a more mid-2000s, dark, gritty, sort of everything's blue.
Yeah.
The late 90s with The Matrix, everything was green.
Yeah.
Mid-2000s, the Bourne movies and everything was blue.
Yep. Yeah.
And now I'm like, we're getting some pop and color, and it looks really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I think for me personally, going forward in the color style for the DC movies have always been very different from the Marvel ones. And I feel like with Birds of Prey and potentially other movies that are going to come. I mean, we even saw with Aquaman, honestly, they're starting to put a lot more pop into the visual elements of the movie. For me, I think that works really well. And this looks like a fun, and like, again, we're judging this off of 38 seconds of footage.
Right.
It looks like a fun, like, nightclub.
Yes.
Like it just has a lot of character.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited.
It looks like what I would imagine the villains lair in the 1990 Ninja Turtles movie would have been.
Yeah.
Like that's their hideout and that's where they're fighting at.
Yeah.
It's like it's got this really cool kind of like playful tone to it.
Yeah.
Especially with that intro, like we're fucking over clowns.
Yeah,
it's like that's a really smart line actually because it works with it and it works with the Joker.
Yeah,
all of this just like look at her overalls. They're bright yellow and bright green with bright pink under it.
I'm excited to see something new within Gotham City.
Yeah, for sure.
For the last several movies, we've kind of seen the same thing.
Yeah,
and like you were saying, The Dark Knight is a very particular thing.
Yeah.
With the original anthology of the 90s movies, Gotham looked different in every single movie.
Yep. Yeah.
For this, I'm like, cool, we're now establishing something that will hopefully consistently kind of follow through in whatever other movie takes place in Gotham City in the future, as long as it's obviously interconnected to the rest of these movies.
Right.
So, I don't know, I thought it was a fun little teaser.
Yeah.
I'm excited for
I'm
a
in.
full trailer.
I'm excited for
soon.
a unhinged Ewan McGregor. That's gonna be fun.
Right. That's going to be cool to see.
Because it's
And then he's going to be Obi-Wan. You're like, oh, he's so sweet.
I
And
know,
then you
right?
watch this, you're like, what a motherfucker.
He's
Yeah.
like,
That's cool.
it always makes me laugh when people put pictures of Obi-Wan
Yeah.
on their mom's shelves and tell them it's Jesus.
Yeah.
So it's the best.
It's the best. It is.
Yeah.
I will say the one thing that was funny, like, so we saw it and there's like 20 minutes of trailers. And when this came on, you know, Emily and Matt were leaning over. They're like, no Birds of Prey. And I was like, hold on. Hold on. I know what they're doing. Just wait. It'll be there. The guy next to me when this ends, he's like, just start the fucking movie already. I was like,
Well,
yeah.
So what
I
you're
get
telling me
it.
is when I go to watch the movie on Sunday, I could be a half hour late.
yes. If you're going to AMC,
15, 20 minutes. Yeah. If you're going to the Alamo, apparently they start that right on time.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Guys, we need to go to the Alamo.
I know. We should.
Look
Yeah.
I
we
just
should really
noticed
do
the
that.
arrow. The
Oh,
bow
yeah,
and
all the
arrow,
weapons?
knife,
The weapons are
the,
in there.
the
Oh.
baseball
The
bat,
the
you know,
mallet,
the hammer,
the,
and then
the brass knuckles.
I love. Look at that, the February brass knuckles. I love that.
Some good
That's
stuff.
awesome.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But obviously, let us know all your thoughts and everything we talked about. We didn't talk about a whole lot, but we talked about things that we're very passionate about. And we had a good conversation about things, especially the Spider-Man Sony thing. I think that's going to be ongoing. Honestly, I don't know how much more we're going to talk about it until we know sort of like, what's the plan?
Until Spider-Man
Because
comes back,
we
we
could-
won't talk about it.
Yeah,
for
like
real.
we could talk about this forever, and just like with so many other things that we've talked about before, I don't want to continue to rehash the same conversation over and over
Thanks.
again. But let us know what you thought about it, what your thoughts are on this little teaser, and anything else. Honestly, go to our Patreon, check out the preview episode of our Titans review, and if you like it, support our Patreon, and maybe in the future there will be more, because there will be more. We'll catch you guys next week. Bye.